Fighting Gentleman here once again, and today we're going to talk about the latest news in video games. Recently, Bayonetta 2, this is kind of old news at this point, but about a couple weeks ago, Bayonetta 2, the sequel to the original Bayonetta game, was announced. Here's the thing. It's going to be a Nintendo Wii U exclusive. Now, I know this unnerved a lot of people, but I'm going to give you my thoughts on it. Personally, I'm actually happy that this game is actually being made, because in the past, Sega was supposed to make it, but they ended up canceling it. And I don't know exactly the reason why that was, but if you ask me, I suspect it's because of how well their past few games that they released did, or at least with that studio, Platinum Games. They released, other than the first Bayonetta, they released Vanquished, and the latest game, Lollipop Chainsaw. Now, despite how good those games were on their own, they commercially weren't all that, they didn't do as well as they expected. And now Nintendo is the publisher of Bayonetta 2. I'm happy that now there's actually a game on the Wii U that I would actually want to play. But so far, that's unfortunately just one game. And, I'm happy that they're making it, but seriously, when you have a system with a controller that makes this system look like a better choice by comparison, yeah, that's not only a feat, but it's kind of a turn-off, especially since this trailer, like, there was a trailer for Bayonetta 2, but there was no gameplay, and it just, it showed that it was a Nintendo Wii exclusive. But I don't know, maybe if they change the control layout, it'll be better. And personally, it's going to have to change, because I don't think many people would be satisfied with the PlayStation 3 if they had the original control design. In the end, it pretty much used an altered version of the DualShock 2, which was a smart move. I mean, if it ain't broke, don't try and fix it. Sony was smart from that standpoint. But here you have a whole game that is, well, I don't know. Maybe we'll have to wait before we can start calling judgment and calling shots. Now, recently, one of my latest videos was showing the Tekken Tag 2 guide, and I remember saying in one of the videos that I was going to show, or at least talk about, how I feel about Tekken Tag 2. Well, I realized when I played the video back, I didn't discuss how I felt. So I'm pretty much just going to do it now. Tekken Tag 2 is great. You should get the game. I mean, there's only a couple, I haven't played online yet, but there's only a couple things I could really complain about, and that's the customization aspect of it. But other than that, the game's pretty solid. I can't say too much about balance, because this is the first Tekken game that I really bought or wanted to actually try and get good at. And, balance and all that, that's for high-level play. And right now, I'm still in the casual mode of it. So I actually suggest you get the game, whether you pre-ordered it or not. And, there'll be the DLC characters coming out soon. They'll be free along with the stages. This game has tons of content. It's almost scary how much content this game has. And I actually met somebody that complained about the content. I'm like, what is your fucking problem? What's wrong with you? But no. If whether you're a fan of Tekken or not, or you like 3D fighters, I suggest you get this game. Moving onward. Recently, another game came out on Xbox Live Arcade. It's called Mark of the Ninja. I'm not sure if it's out for the PS3, but this game is basically a 2D side-scrolling version of Tenchu if it were actually good. And yes, to me, Tenchu has always sucked, because it never had a good pacing or a fluid feel to it. But that's beside the point. It has a very Splinter Cell-esque feel to it. It's fast-paced, and it rewards tactful actions. And then there's a plus game mode. So, as you play, you get all these kinds of powers, because it's stealth-based, right? There's combat, but it's not really recommended you even get into it. In fact, you'll die quick. if you get caught and try and fight back. And yeah, it's one little complaint, but you know, despite all the powers you have and all the abilities you end up having in the end to get around your enemies, even when you play it on New Game Plus, you never feel overpowered. You know, because most games, they start out like that. Fallout and Skyrim, they're like that. You play these games and you start out and you're weak, you know, and that's how it's supposed to be. But it's around the halfway point that you're more or less unstoppable. You can't be. Your enemies really can't even give you a challenge. You're pretty much just racking up experience points at this point to just level up. I mean, Dragon Quest VIII was the exact opposite of that, though. Like, you start out and they're beating the shit out of you. In the first hour of the game, you have to be really careful in that game, or you'll die quickly. And even towards the end of the game, it's extremely tough. Whether it's for a side quest or not, it's tough. But that's how Mark of the Ninja is. You have all these powers, but you never feel too strong. The enemies are smart. You got so many a myriad of options to reach your mission objective, and I like that. Recommend you get that. Other than that, I'm currently downloading, as I record this, I'm downloading 2 games. Jet Grind Radio. Recently, it was finally digitally released, and I never got a chance to play the original Jet Grind Radio. I played Jet Set Radio Future, but never finished it because, well, it was a pretty lengthy game, and Jet Grind Radio, from what I can understand, it was pretty different in terms of design. I'll finally play that and let you know how I feel about it. Also, another game that I kind of forgot about, Double Dragon Neon. I'm taking a chance with this game because I don't know too much about it. But I'm also downloading that as well, and I'll let you know what I think about it as well whenever I finally play it. And now we get to the part that I really did not want to discuss. No, I'm not discussing Resident Evil 6. No, I'm not going to do it. No. To give a little more insight on, like, in this day and age, we have demos that are released for free, right? But in the past, they would say, like, well, you know, the game's still in development, and, you know, this represents an unfinished product, and a lot will be changed. And that was, for the most part, true during the age of the PlayStation. That was for the most part, true with the PS2 games. And, you know, even if they had a few GameCube demos and they had a, you know, Xbox demos as well. But at this point, demos, they're not far from the finished product, so they can't play that bullshit card anymore. Resident Evil 6 is terrible for so many reasons. I mean, one, the controls are really flimsy. The controls are flimsy. The graphics look dated. I hate to complain about that, but I'm getting out the way now. Controls are flimsy. Graphics are dated. The camera never seems to know where the hell it wants to be. And, you know, everybody complained about the Resident Evil 5's AI being ridiculously, like, it did things that it shouldn't. Like, there were things I liked about it in a weird way, but there were things that I didn't like about it, and that was kind of universally the opinion. Like, for one, if I get so much of a paper cut in terms of damage, the AI will pretty much use, like, a first aid kit, and it'd be ridiculous, because if that was the last one, you'd be fucked if you were halfway through the mission. But regardless of that, it would use the machine gun, and it would have impeccable accuracy. But Resident Evil 6, it offers 3 campaigns, and you can play as 1 or 2 characters. I didn't even bother playing as both characters for both scenarios, because seriously, how different is it gonna be? It's not. Oh, I get to play with a character that doesn't have a penis. Who knew? No, I don't really care. But the point is, with Leon's, that was the one I was actually expecting to be the best. I had high expectations of it because it had an older. It went back to the older pace. It brought back zombies, but you know, needless to say, bringing back zombies don't make a good game. We didn't like the old Resident Evil games because they had zombies. We liked them because they had a good pacing about it. You had a challenge. There was always that it was a tense atmosphere. You never felt really comfortable. And then there were puzzles, and it slowed the pace of it down. You had to really think back then. You had to, and killing every enemy you see wasn't always the best choice. Sometimes avoiding the enemies was the best choice. But in Resident Evil 6, I never felt afraid or really worried whatsoever. Like, one problem, I kept running out of ammo, and they now have this physical attack system in which, like, you can literally do physical attacks on your own, and there's a fatigue system, and it's like, it's almost a better choice to do that than even use ammo. It's ridiculous. There's a limit on how much you can do, but it's like, it seems way more effective. One thing that was really stupid with that demo, they kept having these zombies placed where it's like, oh, it's just a dead body, it's sitting in a chair, or it's laying down, and it's not going to move, or sometimes you walk by it and it'll fall over, right? Nothing will happen. It's like, oh, jump scare. Sorry, Dead Rising 2 off the record did a better job. And then it would come to life. Now, come on, we know this is going to happen before it happens because of how it's set up. It doesn't help that the AI is ridiculously really retarded, and that's just with Leon's. With Chris's, this was the one that I was expecting to be an outright failure because it went to a run and gun style of play. It was very Resident Evil 5 oriented. You're playing as Chris and some other random character, and you're pretty much in a war zone, and it's like, is this even Resident Evil anymore? I ended up saying it like, whose idea was this? Whose idea was like, yeah, you know what this game needs? A needless, stupid run and gun style. Well, not run and gun. It's more like squad-based combat. Let's use that term. Squad-based combat. And I'm running around, and the camera's all over the place. The enemies, the AI, once again, ridiculously retarded. Enemies are point blank in front of you. You have 5 other characters on your side. None of them can kill one enemy that's been sitting there for 10 minutes. No. The boss that they had was ridiculously retarded. The music sucked. The camera was all over the place. You never really got an idea of what you were supposed to be doing. I was kind of just running around, and then eventually the demo's over. I'm like, thank God this shit's over. And then there's Jake's scenario. It's a run and gun style, which was an interesting little take. Once again, the AI not only makes the experience excruciatingly painful, because I had a headache with how stupid this was contrived and designed. You never really knew what was going on. Once again, cameras all over the place, and there were some enemies that I couldn't even kill. Because, for one, the enemy AI, they have enemies everywhere. Your gunshots basically do nothing. And another thing I didn't like, even though it's a demo, they didn't really give you time to really understand the controls. When you try and pause it in the game to try and understand and see the controls, the game is still going. I thought it was cool that, yeah, it pull out a cell phone or whatever to change that, but the game is still going. So that means if I'm getting attacked, I'm not going to have a chance to understand what some of the buttons will do. I kind of had to figure things out on my own throughout the course of the years of me playing it. It's kind of like most first-person shooters, you know? It's a typical control layout, but even still, it didn't help that in the Christmas scenario, I'm trying to figure out what allows me to cover. Because at least in Resident Evil 4 and 5, it was easy to understand what allowed you to go and cover. With this, they didn't say anything. They just, oh, press the A button, and then I'm jumping over the cover and directly into enemy fucking fire. But still on Jake's, it was, my bullets don't do anything. I'm trying to run and gun, but the enemies are blocking off my path. I can't attack them. The AI of my other NPC is basically being raped in a corner, and I can't help them because I'm gonna die too. Not to mention, I mean, I had a feeling Resident Evil 6 was gonna be bad, but I gave it a chance. I'm like, okay, they're confirming all this stupid shit. The C virus, Sherry Burkham's return, ooh, who cares? And another Wesker. Which, okay, come on, I already knew they were going to pull some bullshit storyline. But aside from that, the whole, we're trying to get Call of Duty players to come to this game. Well, if that was your goal, I think you failed. Because right now, Call of Duty this game has made Call of Duty a real good game to look at, to play right now. I'm not fucking kidding. I could care less about the next first-person shooter game that's war-oriented, and that's the problem with first-person shooters. They're all pretty much war simulations. They're not real shooters. We used to have good shooters, but without derailing, it's to the point where I wouldn't be too surprised if the demo is not far from the finished product. Because from what I can understand, early copies of Resident Evil 6 were quote-unquote leaked or stolen, I don't know, in Poland, in parts of Europe. So people already have the game now, despite the fact that it won't be coming out for like another month or so. I can only imagine how they feel about how bad the game really is. And don't be surprised whenever reviews of this game come out, oh yeah, bad scores, or if it has high scores, yeah, bullshit, bought and paid for. I ain't buying Resident Evil 6, and I suggest you don't buy it either. And if you don't believe me, download the demo for yourself, and let me know how you feel. Fighting Gentleman, signing out.